Hello everyone, let's create a matte painting of Voyage to Mysterious Land in Photoshop. So let us start. So to begin with, I have put all the images required for the matte painting inside a folder. So this is always a good practice to keep all the necessary images inside a folder. Now let's open Photoshop. Let's create a document. I'm selecting an A3 size document and the orientation for this document is landscape. Let's give it a name, Voyage, and let's create the document. So I have created a document with transparent background. Right. So the first thing we'll be doing is we will be getting a sea. Let's get a sea. So we'll be creating a sea, and on the sea we'll be placing the ships. And it's a mysterious land. We'll be creating this mysterious land which was never visited. We need to also understand the perspective here. So we will be also placing mountains, and we'll be placing the mountains in perspective position. Right. So now we have got the sea. Now let's get the sky. So here is the sky. So we'll just drag the image of sky and place it over here. So this is the sky. We can also increase the size of the document. We can just activate the crop tool by hitting C, and we can increase the size of the document. Right. So now we can see the sky and also the sea. Right. Then we will properly position the sky. Then now we will get the ship. So here is the ship. We need to select this ship. This is a challenging part here. We only want the ship here. We don't want anything else in this image. So first we need to select the ship. To select the ship, here we have a object selection tool or quick selection tool. We will select the object selection tool, and here we have the option lasso, and keep the lasso option active and simply draw a selection around this ship. And now we have to wait till the ship is selected, because object selection tool takes a little bit time to select the subjects in the scene. Right. So now we got a selection around the ship. So what we'll be doing is we will just apply a mask to this. Here we have a mask at the bottom of the layers panel. So we have applied a mask. And we will also confirm the mask by simply right clicking on this mask thumbnail, and we will just select apply layer mask. Right. We can observe something here. So there is a lot of blue on the ship. There is blue in between the portions of the ship. So we have to remove that particular blue. So what we are supposed to do? We will use channels to properly select the ship. So the channels panel is over here, and in case the channels panel is not open, we can always go to window menu and open the channels panel. Right. So in channels panel we can see RGB, and we can also see the individual red, green and blue channels. If we select RGB, all the colors in the image are visible. And if we select individual channels, each channel is shown in grayscale. So what we can understand by the grayscale of the image is, if we select any of the individual channels, if that color is found in the image, that color is highlighted with bright colors. And if that color is not found in the image, or the areas of the image where that color is not found, those areas appear dark. So now if we observe here, if I select a blue channel, see, the image looks a little bit bright because there is some amount of blue in the image. And if we select green, it's not that much bright because there is not much green in the image. And if we select red, there is not much red in the image. Maybe in some places there is red, but there is not much red in the image. So we will select a dark channel. In our case, we will select this red channel. So after selecting the red channel, what we will be doing is, we will not spoil the original channel, we will take its duplicate. To take the duplicate of this red channel, we simply have to select this individual red channel and drag it on top of this create new channel icon at the bottom of the channels panel. So here we got a red copy. Right. Now we will add some contrast to the ship image. To add contrast, we'll open the levels adjustment. To open the levels adjustment, we simply have to hit Ctrl L in PC or Command L in Mac. So here is the levels dialog. So in the levels dialog, we can see three sliders. The left slider will control the shadows. It will make the image more dark. And the right slider will control the highlights. It will make the areas of the image more bright. And the center one is for midtones. So we can get something like this. We need to get something like this. And now we will simply click OK. And now what we will be doing is, we will just hold Ctrl in PC or Command in Mac and click on this channel's thumbnail. You'll get a selection like this. And now we'll come back to the layers, and in layers we'll simply apply a mask to this selection. So at the bottom of the layers panel, we have this mask icon. We just need to click on it. And now we will invert the mask. So we have inverted the mask. And now we have to go inside the mask, or we have to edit the mask properly. We have to get back certain details of the ship. We lost the details of the ship. So we can see here some of the details of the ship are lost. So what we'll be doing is, we'll just hold Alt in PC or Option in Mac and click on the mask thumbnail. Now we have entered inside mask editing mode. Now we will paint white on this ship. White will reveal the areas of the ship and black will hide the areas of the image. So we'll activate the brush tool and we'll keep overlay as the blending mode, and we'll make sure that white is in the foreground. And now we will just paint white over the subject. Wherever we see these gray color areas, we will get rid of them by painting white. Simply hold Alt and PC or Option and Mac and click on the mask thumbnail. So now we are out of the mask editing mode. Right. So now we have painted white on the subject or on the ship inside its alpha, but still we can see some blue. We can see a lot of blue, and we also need to get rid of that blue. So that blue is not looking nice. What we can do, if we want to get rid of that blue, we'll take a duplicate of this layer and we'll first hide the bottom layer, and we will also confirm the mask. For this, we will right click on the mask thumbnail and select apply layer mask, and we will double click on this to open the, or double click on this layer to open the layer style dialog. And in the layer style, here we can see blend if options. We will select blue here. We'll select blue, and we will simply move the blue slider on the right for this layer to the left. So we can see how the blue is going away from the image, and we are also losing the details. Okay, we need to bring back the details actually. So the way to do is, first we have removed all the blue, especially the blue that is behind the ship. Now what we will be doing is, we will just activate the bottom layer, and we will delete the mask thumbnail for the bottom layer. Simply right click on the mask thumbnail and select apply layer mask. We will now apply a mask to this bottom layer, a reveal all mask. We'll select a brush and make sure that we select only a soft rounded brush, and we will also increase the size of the brush, and the blue that we see in the gaps, we have to get rid of the blue. We have to carefully paint with black on the blue areas and make sure that mask thumbnail is active. So here we are able to remove all the blue. We might lose some details here, something like the ropes we might lose. It's okay. We are anyways going to make the ship a very small. We may not notice these ropes. So all we need to do is we have to ensure that the ship is looking clearly. The ship is clear. Ropes are very thin areas, we can't notice them. And still, if we do want the ropes also, there is also another solution for this. The solution is we can just create a line with the same brush tool. We can just take a new layer, and we can just pick the same color here. We can pick a darker color, and we can just reduce the size of the brush, and we can just draw something like this. We can make it even thin. You can just draw a thin line in case we lost the ropes. That's okay. So now we are able to properly select the shaper. We will merge all these layers, but before that we will just simply right click on this mask thumbnail and select apply layer mask. Now we will merge all these three layers, right? And we can check whether we have properly selected the ship or not. We will just create one layer below this ship layer, and we will just apply a black color background. So we can see here there is still some blue on the edges, so we can get rid of that blue as well. So there is one thing that we can do. We can just take one more layer above this ship's layer. We will click this layer to the ship, and we can select a brush, and we can also just change the blending mode here. So we can change the blending mode to, let's say, screen if we want, and we can just select a brush, and if we find the edges not appearing properly, we can just hold Alt and click on the background to sample, or we can also hold Option and click on the image. We can hold Alt and click on the image to sample that area, or we can hold Option and click on the image to sample that part of the image, and we can just paint on the edges. We can see, so we are able to get rid of that blue color fringe that we see. It doesn't look nice, so we can just get rid of them. And if we don't like the screen anymore, we can also select overlay. So if screen is too bright, we can choose overlay or soft light. So here also we can see some portions the fringes are not looking nice. We need to select the we need to select the ship properly. That's very important here, because we will be placing the ship on the sea, right? So now we have properly selected the ship. Now what we'll do is we will change the we'll just merge these two layers, and we will delete the bottom layer, and now we will just drag the ship onto this ocean or sea. So here is the ship. So we will convert the ship to a smart object. That's always a good idea here, because if we convert the ship to a smart object, we can maintain its resolution. It will not lose its resolution, because later we will be duplicating the ship and create multiple ships, and we will be placing these multiple ships in the scene, and the ships are going to be resized, right? So we have now covered the entire ship part. Now we will start getting some more objects or some more elements. So we will now get this mountain. So here is the mountain, and the mountain image is an index file. So we have to change the color mode for this file to RGB. We'll go to image mode and we'll select RGB, and we will select the quick selection tool and click on this select subject. We'll select this mountain properly, and we will simply drag this mountain onto this ocean. And one important thing we are supposed to do is, we can see the edges of this mountain. The edges of this mountain are not sharp. We can see a white color fringe on the edges of this mountain. We have to first get rid of those fringes. So for that, what we'll be doing is, we'll simply hold Ctrl in PC or Command in Mac and click on the layer thumbnail to get a selection around this mountain. So once we got the selection, now we will shrink the selection. To shrink the selection, we need to go to select menu, and in select menu we have the option modify, and in modify we have the option contract, and we will contract the selection by, let's say, 2 pixels. And now we will invert the selection. To invert the selection, we will simply hit Ctrl Shift I in PC or Command Shift I in Mac, and we will simply hit delete. So now we can see the edges of these mountains are sharp, right? And now we will properly rename the layers. This is a very important thing. So we will rename this layer as ship, we'll rename this layer as mountain, and we will rename the layer as sky, and we'll rename this layer as sea, or we can say ocean, whatever, right? So now we will place the mountain properly. The most important thing here is we need to place the mountains in a perspective position. This is very important. For matte painting, perspective is a very important feature. So perspective means whatever objects are far away, they need to appear small, and whatever objects are close to the camera, they should appear big. So here the mountain is far away, so I am making the mountain small. But the most important thing to remember is let's first convert this layer to a smart object, because if we resize the object we might lose its resolution. So we don't want to lose the object's resolution. So let's right click on the mountain layer and select convert to smart object. Now this has become a smart object. Now even if we scale it, we won't be losing its resolution. Right, in that way we are doing a non-destructive editing by not spoiling the original object. Right, so now let's scale it down. Let's keep this let's keep this mountain far away, somewhere over here. And then let's take a duplicate of this mountain, and we will rename the layer second mountain. We can rename the first one as first mountain. Just for our convenience we have to rename. And now let's increase the size of the second mountain. So we can increase it a little bit, something like this. Right, and then we'll take one more duplicate, and this one is the third mountain, and we will just make it even big, so something like this. And we can also do one thing, we can just move the first mountain a little bit to the right, and then we will move the second mountain to the right, and we will also move the third mountain, so that we can get the fourth mountain, so that there is space for the fourth mountain. We can just select all these three layers and just move them a little bit to the right. Right, now let's get one final mountain. Let's simply hit Ctrl J in PC or Command J in Mac to duplicate the layer, and we'll rename this fourth mountain. Right, now let's resize the mountain, and let's keep it, we can keep it close to the camera if we want, something like this. So this is a perspective positioning, and we can select all the mountains and just move them a little up, and we can also position the first mountain properly, and we can also rotate them a little bit. Right, so now this looks better. Right, now we will just select all these mountains, and we can create one single smart object, and then we will take one more duplicate of all these mountains, and we will activate the transform tool, and we will flip these mountains. So here we are keeping these mountains on the right side. So now what we'll be doing is we will actually select both these mountain layers and drag them below the ship layer. So this is how we can do. We need to position them properly. And we can just keep this ship a little bit big. Right. Let's keep adjusting the sizes of these mountains. So we have to keep adjusting them because we want proper size here. And also let's position the ship so that we can clearly see all the mountains. Right. Let's get the statues. So we will get this particular statue, and we will, place this statue on these mountains. First we need to properly select the statue. So what we'll be doing is we will just use select subject for quick selection tool, and now we will just apply a mask to this. We can just create a background and check whether we have properly selected the statue or not. We have missed any details or something like that. And also we don't have to select the entire statue. We will only select the portion till its legs. So here we don't want this unwanted portion here. So what we'll be doing is we'll select the mask thumbnail, and we will just get rid of this bottom portion. So we will just use black color here. So we need to properly paint. We are also going to paint when we drag this statue inside our matte painting document. Something like this. Right. So now we have properly selected the statue, and we will confirm the mask. We will simply right click on the mask thumbnail and select apply layer mask. Right. Now we will just drag this statue onto this document, and we will scale it, and make sure that we convert this into a smart object. This is a very important thing, because if not we might lose its resolution. So we'll simply make it big. We can rotate it if we want. Right. So then we will apply a mask to it. We will also rename the layer statue, or we will be actually duplicating the statue, so we will rename it as statue front. Right. Now we will apply a mask to this. We will select a brush, and we will erase the bottom portion. So here we have the bottom portion. We don't want this. We can just simply erase it. So something like this. You can just bring back some of the details. We can again paint in white. We can just bring back the leg here. Right. Now we will take one more duplicate of this statue, and we will just flip it, and we will keep it over the far away mountain. And we have to scale it down. So this will create a perspective illusion. This is very important for matte painting. So something like this. Right. Then we will just rename the layer as statue back. Right. And the next step is we will select the ship layer, and we will duplicate the ship layer. We will be creating more ships here, and we will just create the duplicate below the main ship layer, and we will rename it second ship. It's always a good practice to rename layers. And let's make it small. We have to make it even small actually. So something like this. Right. And then we'll create one more ship. We'll just take one more duplicate here, and we will drag this duplicate ship layer below the second ship layer, and we'll rename it third ship. Right, and we will just move the third ship and make it small. This is the third ship and this should look very small. Right, so now we have placed the ships in perspective, and we can do one more thing here. We don't want all the ships to be in one direction or to point in one direction. We can just flip this one. So now this ship is pointing in a different direction, so we can see, and we can also resize it because it's close to the camera. Right, so now we have properly created an illusion of perspective positioning. Right, and now we will also apply a mask to this ship, and we can erase the bottom portions of this ship so that it looks like the ship is actually floating on the water, so something like this. Right, here on the left side we can see some empty space. We'll put the image of a shore, seashore, over here. So here is the image of a seashore. We can see some rocks. So we will select this much portion. So we will select the lasso tool, simple lasso tool, and we can roughly select, make sure that we don't select the mountain. We only select this rock and this shore. So we have selected, and we will now just apply a mask to this. And what we want is, we don't want these extra areas here, such as the water and the sky. We only want the shore part. So for that we can do the same thing that we have done for the ship. We can select the channels, and this time we will select red channel because there is not much red in the image, and we will take a copy of the red channel, and then we will apply some contrast. We will activate the levels dialog, and then we will just increase the dark areas or dark part. We'll just increase the shadow part of the image, or make the shadows more dark, and also make the background more bright, something like this. And also we also need to see that whether we are able to select the shore or not. We want the shore actually, so something like this. Right, so this much is fine. Now we will just hold Control in PC or Command in Mac and click on the channel thumbnail, and then we'll come back to the layers, and at the bottom of the layers panel we'll click on this mask icon, and we'll invert the mask. And what we'll be doing is, we want only the shore. So we'll go into the mask editing mode, and we'll select a brush, and we'll also select overlay blend mode. We will keep white as the foreground color, and we will paint white on the shore. The entire shore has to be in white color. Means whatever part of the image that has to be visible, that needs to be in white, and whatever part of the image that we don't want has to be in black, and that part will be invisible. So this is the alpha of our mask. Oh, just a minute. So we have painted white completely. inside the shore. We don't want the background or the part that is not part of the shore. We'll slowly get rid of it. So here we have some sky here. So we'll also get rid of that sky. We'll keep overlay blend mode. We'll keep black as the foreground color, and we will erase the part of the sky that is around this rock. We'll paint black. So like this, we can only select these rocks and the shore. Right. So once we are done with all these things, we will now come out of the mask editing mode. Simply we'll hold Alt and PC or Option and Mac and click on the mask thumbnail. Now we will just change the overlay blend mode to normal, and we will right click on the mask thumbnail. We still can see some sky around the rock. It's okay, we can erase it later. We'll now just drag this rock or shore and keep it over here. We can scale it down. Right. And now we will apply a mask to this, and we will erase any unwanted portions of the rock that are visible here. There are some unwanted portions. We can get rid of them. Right. So we are able to properly select the rock, or we can place the shore properly. Right. So now we have put all the elements inside our matte painting document. Now we have to do some color adjustments to give some extra attraction to our matte painting. So the first thing we'll be doing is, if we observe the sea here, the sea color is too bluish, and it's not matching properly with the mountains. The mountains are too greenish in color and the sea is too bluish in color. Let's try to match the sea with the mountains. So what we can do is, let's select the sea layer. Let's go to image, and here we have adjustments, and here we have the option match color. And in the match color dialog box, if we scroll down, at the bottom we can see an option source. From source, let's select the name of our document, which is Voyage, and we have to match the sea with the mountains. So we will just select the mountains. Here we can find the mountains here. The mountains are here, so we can just select the mountain. So immediately the sea color has changed. So we can see now the sea color is completely greenish, but we don't want the sea color to be too greenish. We can reduce the matching effect by increasing the fade amount. So here we can just increase the fade amount. We want only a partial matching effect. We don't want a complete matching effect. Okay, this much is fine. Right. Then what we'll be doing is we will also match the rocks or the shore with that of sea. So for that, what we'll be doing is we will first select the rock layer. We will rename it as rock or shore, something like that, and then we will now match the rocks with sea. So we'll simply go to image, adjustments, match color, and here from the source we will select the name of our document, and from the layer we will select sea. So we can see immediately the shore color has changed. We will increase the fade amount to reduce the matching effect. So this much is okay. We can also increase or decrease the luminance here. Luminance will brighten up the image of the shore, and we can also increase the color intensity. Color intensity will make the colors on the shore more dark. So we can just slightly increase the color intensity, right? And now we will also try to erase this part. This part is appearing very much bluish, so you can just erase it, right? So now this looks fine. Right, so now we are all set. The next thing we'll be doing is we will try to match the statues also. See, the statues appear too bright, so what we can do is we can match the statues with the mountains. But the problem here is we have to match the statues not in this document but in a separate document. So what we can do is we can just select the statue layer. First we will try to match the statue front. If we double click on this statue layer, we will be actually double clicking on the smart object icon, so that we will be opening a new document, and after selecting this new document or the editable document, we can go to image, adjustments, and match color, and here we have the option source. We will select the name of our document, and we will match the statue with let's say with the mountain. So immediately we can see the color of the statue has changed. We'll reduce the matching effect, and the most important thing is we need to save, and we can see the change. Here we can see the change, and we can see even this statue has changed, right? And now we will match the ships. We'll try to match the ships with the sea. So we'll select the ship layer. We'll just double click on it. It's enough if you just match one ship, because smart objects have a link with each other. So if we change or if we match one ship with the other elements in the image, the changes will be affected on the clones of this particular ship or the duplicates of this particular ship. So let's match this ship. So what we will be doing is we'll simply go to image, adjustments, and here we have the option match color, and we will select the source as our document, and we will match the ship with sea. So immediately we can see our ship acquired the color of the sea, and we will reduce the matching effect. Let's keep it to, let's say 60. We don't want the ship to be too greenish, so that's why I have reduced the matching effect, right? And now the most important thing is we need to save, and I will come back so we can see now the ships appear as though they are part of this image, right? So now we have matched all the objects in the scene. The next thing we are supposed to do is we have to add some extra attraction to our scene. So how we can do that? The first thing we'll be doing is we will be applying a curves adjustment. So we will just apply a curves adjustment layer. So we can just reduce the brightness. So we can see the brightness is now less in our scene. There's low brightness, right? Then we will just apply one more adjustment, that is color balance, and we will slightly make our entire scene a little bit greenish, not too greenish, but it should be somewhat in between green and blue. So something like this. So we can just let's not make it too artificial. Right, this much is okay. Right. Then the next step is we will now just add a interesting option here, that is inside the adjustment. Here we have this option, color lookup. Let's open it. So this will come up with a number of interesting presets which will give some extra attraction to our scene. So here is a host of options. Number of options are there. We can select any one of them. So let's try with this edgy amber. So we can see here immediately our scene got an interesting color. We can try some other things. We'll select horror blue, so we can see here, and we can also try some more things like drop blue and foggy night. There are so many interesting things here, so we can just play with these things. Teal orange, tension green. But what we'll be doing is, let's select something called a horror blue. So we'll stick to this horror blue, but we don't want it to be too bluish in color, so we'll do some changes. So what we'll be doing is, we'll come back to our layers. So we'll inverse the mask for this color lookup. So keep the mask thumbnail active and simply we'll hit Ctrl I in PC or Command I in Mac. Right. So again we are back to our original color mode or original color. So now what we'll be doing is, we'll select a brush. We will select a soft rounded brush. We will reduce the flow amount here. Let's keep it to, let's say, 25%, and we will increase the size of our brush. And after increasing the size of our brush, we can also squish our brush just by right clicking on it and just changing its roundness, and the roundness should look like an egg or an egg shape. So now what we can do is, we can just click on our document once, twice. But the most important thing is, we need to keep white as the foreground color, and now we can just see the change. So now we can see the change, how it's changing our scene. But we can also keep black as a foreground color, and we can just slightly reduce the effect also. Right. So now our scene got some attraction. Right. So we can see the gray color on our color lookup. Right. So now we will get the moon, and just we will try to give some attraction to the scene. The moon will brighten up the scene. It will give some extra attractive lighting to the scene. We'll get this moon, and we will just keep it over here. So we'll keep it on the left side. What we'll be doing is, we will create some lighting on the left side, and the right side will be a little bit shaded, or the little bit dark. The left side will have some lighting. Right. So once we have positioned the moon like this, then what we'll be doing is we will just take a new layer and we will rename the moon layer as moon, and we will just rename the new layer as lighting. Right. Then we will change the blending mode to linear dodge. We'll select a brush and we'll keep white as the foreground color, and we can just click on this moon. Okay, we have to select a soft rounded brush, and also we'll keep the lighting layer below the moon layer. We want a glow behind the moon, so something like this. So now we got a glow to the moon. If we think the glow is too much, we can slightly reduce the flow value and we can click. So this much is okay. Right. We can add some extra brightness to the scene. We can add some extra brightness to the sky as well as to the ocean or sea. So what we'll do is we'll just take a new layer. We can just rename it extra brightness, and we'll change the blending mode to color dodge. We'll double click on this layer, and here in the layer style we will just turn off the transparency shapes layer. What it will do is it will add extra brightness to the scene. We'll keep white as the foreground color, and we can select where we want to add brightness. Let's try to add some brightness to the sky. So let's see here. So we are able to add some brightness to the sky. But here we are also affecting the moon. So let's reduce the size of the brush. Let's add brightness only to the sky portion around the moon. So something like this. And we can also add some brightness to the ocean as well as to the rocks. So something like this. So we got some nice interesting look, and the glow around the moon is little bit intense, so we can reduce its opacity so that the glow looks mild. Right. So we will add one more color lookup preset to the scene. So what we'll be doing is we will just select the color lookup, and from the list we will select tension green. So we will add this tension green preset to our scene, and we don't want the effect to be too intense, so we can slightly reduce its opacity. We can keep it to, let's say, around 60%. Let's keep it to 60%. Right. Now the one last thing that we'll be doing is we will apply some foggy effect to the scene. So here we have this gradient fill and adjustment layer with which we can add some foggy effect to the scene. We want the foggy effect both on the bottom side and top side of the image. So what we can do is we can just click on this gradient option to open the gradient editor, and we will slightly increase the opacity for the right slider's opacity slider, so that there will be a lot of fog in the image. So something like this. So here the scene looks too foggy. So what we can do is we can just invert the gradient fill and adjustment option, or gradient fill thumbnail, and we can just paint some fog on the image. We'll paint fog at the bottom of the image, and we'll paint fog on top as well. So but we have to paint it slowly, and we have to paint it only on some portions of the image. Here I think we have painted in excess. We can just erase. So we need to be careful. We don't want the scene to be too foggy. So we can just add a little bit of fog here. Right. So we can slightly reduce the opacity so that the fog doesn't look too intense. It should look less foggy. Right. So this is the matte painting of Voyage to a Mysterious Land. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please do like, subscribe, share, and if you have anything to say, do comment. See you again.